So Francisco has been sending in a few heads for the past few weeks. I think this is Francisco's fourth head that he has sent in. It looks like there are some other heads here in this file that he has provided. But let me go ahead and read Francisco's email here. Let's see. So I fixed the lips, worked on the eyes, and kind of everything in general. If you could take this again to critique it, with the head being the focus, I didn't have a lot of time to improve the head, but to be honest, I'm not sure what I can do to improve it anymore. Not saying it's perfect, I just don't know how to get it further. Thanks, as always, for all the help recently, and have a good day. Well, thank you, Francisco. It's very kind of you. If you are here, or even for those that are, maybe joining us a little late, or won't be able to stay for the entire thing, that's not a problem. All the content here gets uploaded over to my YouTube channel. So, Francisco, I think my advice for you is going to... I'm going to try to do this a little bit differently today, because my advice has been very similar for the past few weeks, and you have this is your best head yet. Like, hands down, this is your best work that you have provided for the critiques, and I applaud you for that. Awesome job. But you are making a lot of the same mistakes, and I think, in general, my advice would be, for this period, and this is something that I tried to do a lot when I was kind of starting out, and I think it's good advice. I typically don't like general advice, but I do think this is one time where I'm like, general advice in this area is sometimes appropriate. So, I think the area that you need to focus on, instead of trying to keep revising the same head over and over and over again, I highly encourage you to just grab a sphere and completely start over and just do a completely new head. And I want your objective and kind of mindset to be in an area of quantity over quality, especially when you're trying to study something new or trying to get in at these earlier stages or earlier to intermediate stages, and you're kind of flown into that like middle ground. I highly encourage people to get up their mileage, because it's something that's extremely important. And if you're seeing something, or for example, if you're seeing me do something to the heads that I've been critiquing, and your heads aren't looking exactly the same, or you're seeing what I'm doing and you're not able to replicate what I am doing exactly, that's typically a problem with just mileage. You need to get up that mileage so that you can learn the tool set, learn your personal tool set even better, till you get to a point where a lot of this stuff kind of becomes like second nature. For instance, let's just kind of go through here some of the first things that immediately stand out to me. And I will very quickly mention, for those that are interested in seeing a more in-depth look at a head critique, I believe the second to last head that we critiqued from Francisco, we spent about an hour on it. It's this video over on my YouTube channel, just ZBrush head critique. Spent an hour going through from start to finish, and I just want to show you guys Francisco's old head so you can see how much he has improved. This is, I think, the second head that Francisco sent in, and look at that compared to this one here, and just how much improvement we have seen. So Francisco has been using this as one of his references. I know he has been using a planar, if you just Google, not headphones, that's a weird autocomplete, just planar head. I don't think I've ever Googled planar headphones, so I'm not sure why that auto-completed. But if you just Google planar head, there are, what's his name? Saki, let me see, planar head female maybe? This model. There is a male and female. What is this dude's name? So we can shout him out. Victor. What did I say? Psyche? Psychic. So there is a male and female head. I think this is just a really nice reference for kind of figuring out those early stages for blocking out this kind of stuff. Do keep in mind, though, that this isn't super anatomically correct, and a lot of the forms are exaggerated. That's the entire point of a planar head. So a reference like this might not be incredibly useful after you get past that blockout phase. So looking back at this head, You had mentioned, Francisco, you fixed the lips and some other stuff here, and you just want some general critique on the head. I think you have a lot of the same issues, I will say, about how thin some of this is getting through here. Down into the jaw, and just the face in general. And I can clearly see this like running up through your nose. I would try, the nose feels like a little bit large and also squashed in, so that's why I'm trying to kind of pull that out a little bit. I think you've done a nice job of correcting a lot of those original shape issues that we had with your eyes in the last one. You've started to really focus on that hit right there, which I appreciate. I enjoy that greatly. Always looking for that. Running up through here from the jaw, it's just a little messy. If your geometry is getting too stretched, remember that you can always Dynamesh and... Excuse me, my tea is coming back up. You can always Dynamesh and then remesh your face again. You specifically mentioned the lips, so I'll talk about the lips here. Your bottom lip. So, how do I want to approach this? I would say look at extreme angles. So the first thing I did when I looked at your head, because it was looking a little bit thin to me, was I did this bottom up view. And I can see from your bottom lip here, if we just look at that silhouette, see how that's like poking out over top of your upper lip? This is the kind of stuff that I really want you to look for. And that's why it's so important to look at these crazy, super extreme angles, because you often miss these kinds of things, and it can give you a lot of information on that. So you know that for lips, right? You know that you obviously know, because I can see the major forms that you've sculpted in here. You know that the top lip has these 3 distinct pillows, and the bottom lip has 2 of those, right? And I can see that. And then you have these muscles flowing down from here, so obviously that's a part of the mouth. But what you've done incorrectly is just kind of the overall shape here. And as I rotate around in the 3/4 view, you can really see where this problem lies. So that bottom lip there, it's just like, I don't even think I can make this shape with my lips. So what we want to do is we want to mask all this off for that bottom lip. Let me switch to my transpose line. You have some edge loops running around here, so the geometric masking, or topological masking as it is called, is not being my friend. There we go, that should be good enough. So I'm going to pull back on these lower pillows of your lips. Remember, from the upper lip to the bottom lip, the upper lip is always out further. And then the lower lip does the same thing. Here, just pulling back into the corner. So what I'm trying to get at here is that some of this stuff is looking a little representative of, you know what the basic shape is supposed to be, what it's supposed to look like, but you're not looking at the reference enough to, or you're not rotating around and looking at the reference enough from multiple different perspectives. So for the eye, or you know what, let's say on the lips. So we know that there are these 2 main shapes, but you also know that there are these muscles here. As they start to flow down and you start to build up this form more and more, and I'm guessing this is what happened, you just kept building up this shape and building it up, and eventually it just completely broke your form from a different angle. So I say this a lot because I do believe it's important. I think it's obvious, but at the same time I think it's not. You know, we're 3D artists, so we gotta make it look good from all different angles. Essentially what that means is, as you're working, as you're sculpting, don't forget to rotate around and look at your shape and make sure it's still feeling good from all sorts of other angles. So as I rotate around here to the 3/4 view, I'm not actually looking here. I'm not looking at my model directly where I'm like facing it. I'm rotating around so that I can see the silhouette here on the side. So that is what I am doing when I do this. Of course, it's helpful to be able to look over here, but from the front, I can't get any information about the silhouette of these lips. From the profile, I can only get this information, but from the 3/4, I can look at the lip and also see some information about the silhouette of that shape. So that's what I'm trying to emphasize here, because I think this is kind of where things are falling apart for you currently. And this is also why I recommend increasing your mileage and trying to get that up as much as you can. Focus on quantity over quality. Because the more that you do this, it's just hands down a fact that the more you do it, the better you will get. I often say that anybody can be an artist. It's just a matter of time, and what I mean by that is not, oh, it's a matter of years and years of work, which it is, but, somebody who's never done art in their entire life, excuse me, could paint the Mona Lisa, right? It just might take them a year of, copying back and forth and, like, trying to get it exactly perfect, right? But somebody who's been painting their entire life could maybe paint the Mona Lisa in a week or a month, doing like a master copy or something like that. So getting up that mileage is really important. I think it will help you a lot. I'll comment on your topology here because it's not really doing you any favors. I would recommend that, I'm not sure, it looks like you remeshed with polygroups here around the eyes. I would just be careful with your selections as you're kind of getting a little crazy here, and this stuff is never just super easy to work with. You got the same thing going on back here, just some crazy pinching, might be a little tough to work with as well, but as we rotate around we start to see how this form starts to fall apart. So really think about when you're starting to build your secondary shapes on top of your primary shape, that your primary shape doesn't fall apart. So if you have a face, and you start to put a nose on that face, you have to make sure that the underlying structure, the skull, the muscle, the fat, the skin, everything else is feeling good underneath of that, so that when you build up that nose, none of that gets too wonky. And right now, I think you have a pretty good kind of line coming down from there. We've done a little bit of tweaking, but I think there's probably some more stuff that we could do here proportionally to just kind of push that a little bit further. But the main issue of why I brought that up is because your skull has this like super dip in here, and I'm sure it's super obvious now that we're kind of looking at it from this angle. Maybe not so from the front, but I think just kind of fill that in. Really focus on making sure that those primary forms of the head are working well before you, or after you add on those ears or whatever other secondary form you're adding on there. Let's see. What else? There's quite a bit. And I think it's a lot of the same advice that I've already given, so I think, I don't know, we'll just kind of noodle around with this, see if we have any additional questions in chat. If anybody has any specifics, we can maybe look at that. But I think I'll just kind of noodle around and pick out whatever kind of sticks out to me. And here's another example of something being representative of form, but not really looking at a reference to try to sculpt it accurately. And this is just, in general, what I'm talking about is something that's very common early on. Not just for sculpture, but for all forms of art. The sternocleidos, everybody's favorite muscle to say, coming down from the neck. You just have this kind of long line cut down and running through here, and it feels very just kind of stuck on. And I think that's how your lips feel as well. Just kind of stuck on and not really thinking about, how the rest of this kind of connects up to the face. So I would do another pass on these, in all honesty. I think that will also help you as that shape kind of runs up back here to fix some of that stuff behind the ear and running up into the jawline as well. Front of the neck, just the silhouette of this probably needs some work from the profile. I don't think we'll focus on the neck too much though. This feels a little bit strong to me from the front, from the brow to the cheekbone. If we're looking at this, we're just getting a really strong shadow right here that feels kind of blocky and squared off. And I can tell that just from the front view, but I want to show you as we rotate around in 3D. And as I look at this from an extreme view, here, I'll even do this. We'll chop off everything down below and look at this here. it's pretty squared off. That's a pretty squared off forehead. And I don't know, maybe you can wrap your fingers around your own forehead and try to figure that out, or just look a little bit closer at your reference. I think that'll help you. But we're getting some problems with your extreme views. So, not really problems with your extreme views, but things that could be fixed if you use those extreme views a little bit more. Let's see. Let's kind of soften some of this form. I might just Dynamesh this together. I don't really have too much else to say about the lips. I think some of the kind of sharp transitions around here are a little much. I also think that some of this is just exaggerated in a way that feels pretty awkward. Let's see. Let's just do some more noodling here. I'm trying to give as much new advice as I can, and I know some of this for you, Francisco, sounds repetitive, which is why I'm encouraging you to get that mileage up as much as you can, and just understand that this is not something that's going to happen in a month or in a couple months. Sculpting's really, really hard, and it takes a long time. It really does. But you're doing a good job, getting a lot of really good progress in here, and I hope that some of these critiques have been helpful for you. At least it looks like they have. Let's see. I don't think you're super far off proportionally. I just think that there are a few things here that rotating around your model a little bit more could definitely benefit from quite a bit. Let me also just like inflate a little bit around the forehead, because this brow shape is just feeling, like I said, we're getting like this super hard shadow over here. I'm trying to, I thought it was how squared off the brow was. Maybe I just didn't push that back far enough. I'm trying to replane some of this out so I can see exactly where that issue is occurring. I think we're a little bit better now, though. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody just joining us. How are you guys doing? So I think that could come back even further than some of what I was doing there. Hello guys, how are you doing? Welcome. Alright, so that's feeling quite a bit better to me in the forehead as we start to just wrap that around. It's no longer feeling quite as squared off. Obviously this is all like really pinched and messy, so if you end up working on this a little bit more, I would spend more time here in the forehead than what I did. Let's maybe talk about your mouth a little bit more. And let's try something here. So we talked about the muscles flowing down here from the side, right? And how that was starting to, as you built that shape up, kind of like pull out and get way too inflated, so that if we rotate around in the 3/4 view, it was sticking out really far. I think that's feeling much better now with those improvements. But let's see something. Let's see what we can do here. Let's take a look. One thing that I find helpful when I'm sculpting mouths is to press my lips together. And because you have a mouth bag, I was just looking at your mouth bag really quick, it should be fairly simple to do this. So I'm just going to use my move brush and use some masking to start pushing these lips together. For the upper lip, I'm also going to inflate this area around here. Let's also, just so this feels more integrated here, I'm going to square off your jaw a bit more and just widen your face from the bottom quite a bit because it's just tapering way too much. And yeah, you know what? I'll keep the kind of super squared off chin that you had there. I don't think that looks bad. The volume here is maybe just a little bit much. So let's get back to our mouth. So I think that mouth is just feeling a little bit better because I widened out the corners there to give a little bit more. Man, this is so hard to mask. The topology just doesn't want to help me. The corners of the mouth were feeling like really deep and like pushed in this way. But not deep enough in the face, which is why I was kind of pulling back on those from the profile, and at the same time giving a little bit more volume in there. Let me make a poly group here, if I can get a decent mask. Sure. The topology here, like I said, in general, is not super helpful for sculpting. I don't try to get like animation ready topology out of ZRemesher, obviously. That's ridiculous. You're never gonna get that. You might get close, but I try to get some good sculpting topology. But close up your lips, then you can really, I think, start to see how these volumes feel together. From the bottom extreme view, because we never want to have parallels, and that includes, you know, matching the same curve there. I'm just gonna move that lower lip, push it in a little bit, and maybe just like use my pinch brush and play with the planes here a little bit as well. Kind of soften some of this. Again, the topology here isn't being my friend too much, but I think that's already starting to feel a bit better. And then from the top lip, it looks like we could just use quite a bit more volume back here. It's probably a combination of this plus the upper lip maybe sticking out a little bit too much. Kind of got this extreme. If we can, I would like to pull back on this and start to match that line a little bit better coming down. And it looks like the lips are kind of like pointed down a little bit. I always try to make the awkward faces of the thing that I'm sculpting on, just like, doesn't actually work out too well. Nose feels a little big to me in general. I'm just gonna scale this down. I think that feels just a little bit better. There's a lot of variations on faces though, and you have not provided a reference. Speaking of reference, because Francisco, I know that you're using some blocked out, or what would you call it, planed out faces for your references, and I don't think you're using real anatomy or real people. So I would highly encourage you on your next head that you do, again, try to get up on the quantity, think more about doing quantity over quality. And I would also encourage you, and I would encourage everyone, to look at real humans for your reference. If you're looking at other people's work, you are going to put in all the mistakes that they did. So it's always better to use the original resource if you can. And also, try to find one reference that you really want to follow. Try to find one single, since you're doing a bunch of masculine faces, one single male person, that sounds so weird, one single dude, and try to maybe pick somebody famous so you can find a bunch of reference images of them, and then try to copy their likeness as best as you can. But yeah, I think that's really all I have to say about this dude. I wish you luck, Francisco, and again, focus on quantity over quality. Really look at those extreme angles. I really do think it'll help you out a lot for stuff like how kind of blocky and squared off your forehead was feeling, and how tight the lower jaw into the chin was feeling as well. And then just make sure you're kind of filling in the volumes back behind your ears where we were getting like a little kind of wavy back there, or I shouldn't say a little, it's pretty wavy back there, pretty crazy. So pay attention to those few things, and I think you will kick some major butt. All right, let's move on to the next one.